So we're now here on the Big 12's list. As I said, we are doing this in a series, basically. And we're starting from all of the weaker conferences. We are now basically in the middle of the pack in the lower of the top five conferences. Now we're in the Big 12. Kansas beats Missouri State. UCF beat Kent State. I think Missouri State could beat Kansas, to be honest, this year. Baylor beats Texas State. I want to say I said Sam Houston State wins this whenever I had it playing through earlier. Iowa State wins this. Kansas State wins this. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, TCU. You're not going to be good, Colorado. Scaling 50 people together that never play together is not going to be good. I hate to throw haterade because look, Dion, do what you do, but I don't think it's going to work. Cincinnati, going to win against Eastern Kentucky. Shouldn't be much of an issue. Houston's going to win. Texas, yeah. Texas Tech over Wyoming. And Penn State over West Virginia. Boise State spoils UCF here immediately. Oklahoma State probably beats Arizona State on the road. I think Utah beats Baylor. BYU beats Southern Utah. Kansas State. Oklahoma. Cincinnati over Pittsburgh. Houston over Rice. TCU over Nichols. Oregon over Texas Tech. Alabama. I think the Crimson Tide beat Texas. Think they will. Texas, you're not back. Stop saying that. West Virginia. I think Iowa beats Iowa State this year, and I think Kansas beats Illinois. I don't think Illinois is going to have a great team this year, to be honest. Baylor, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, of course. Arkansas beats BYU, Cincinnati over Miami of Ohio. UCF over Villanova, Houston. No, they're going to lose. I hate to rain on a lot of people's parades, but I'm still pretty high on TCU. I know Houston's pretty good, and I know they're new to this division. But I think UCF and Cincinnati would be more likely to knock off TCU. And I think maybe later in the year they will, and they'll be hitting harder. But this is early season football in week 3. And so I'm really thinking that TCU is going to hold together better next season than Houston early season. But as it goes later into the season, I could see a Cincinnati or a Central Florida definitely knocking off TCU. Kansas beats Nevada, of course. Texas beats Wyoming. Oklahoma beats Tulsa. West Virginia beats Pittsburgh. And I think Missouri, I don't know if people would consider that an upset or not, to be honest. Texas beats Baylor, and I think Texas smothers Baylor, to be real. I think Oklahoma State's going to hang around there pretty strong next year. Iowa State's going to leave the game pretty early. Um, I think UCF should be able to beat Kansas State on the road. I think BYU should be able to deal with Kansas, and I think TCU should be able to deal with SMU. Um, I don't know what I think is going to happen with Cincinnati and Oklahoma next season. Because I don't think Cincinnati's returning their quarterback, which means they're going to be playing weak. But then Oklahoma played weak all last season, so you can't really have a heavy hand with that. I think Cincinnati could win at home. I think they can. And I'll put Cincinnati as the victory over Oklahoma. And they're putting Oklahoma down low in the standings already. West Virginia beats Texas Tech, and Houston beats Sam Houston. Cincinnati, BYU. I think Cincinnati's going on the road. It's going to be a hard environment. I think this is where Cincinnati gets an elbow drop of reality, and it's going to hurt them a lot. Oklahoma should beat Iowa State. It shouldn't be a hard win to, think of. TCU's going to win over West Virginia. Houston's going to redeem themselves on the road by beating Texas Tech. And realistically, I think UCF beats Baylor on the road or at home. That UCF stadium gets loud as it gets loud as fuck. Texas beats Kansas. Texas fans, you're 4-1. You're not back though. Wait until you play Cincinnati and TCU and Houston or Oklahoma. Any of those teams, you're gonna get smacked. Just wait, Texas. Anyway, Oklahoma State, I think, is pretty good. They have a great offense coming back next year, and I think they're playing fairly well. Baylor is going to play Baylor football, which is mediocre football, but they're going to play just enough to get past Texas Tech. Iowa State is not going to beat TCU. Now, you would think, oh, TCU, but this whole thing is going to change. Because if you see, there's still a ton of really good teams down here that easily could become 1 and 2 with one loss by either of these teams. In the Red River rivalry, I think I'll give it to Texas this year. Again, I think Oklahoma is going to really implode on itself going forward. And I think it already has started. As you can see in conference, they're already 1 and 2. Houston, West Virginia. I think Houston wins that. Oklahoma State has a great offense, but they have no defense. Kansas can stop that offense, but has no offense of its own. So this game should be interesting. I'm going to give it to Kansas on the road. I do think Kansas can do it. And it's going to knock off Oklahoma State, and it's going to hurt for our fan base, but it's going to knock back reality. There's only a handful of people that could make a run at a championship in the Big 12. this year, and that would be Cincinnati. It would be maybe I wouldn't even put Central Florida there. No, they're gonna implode whenever they play like Texas. That would be Texas or TCU. Maybe Houston. Maybe Houston. But I think they're still too new. Uh, anyway, I digress. Let's keep going. So here's where I think TCU is going to. No, I think they beat BYU, actually. Kansas State beats Texas Tech. I do think that's going to happen. And Cincinnati is going to beat Iowa State. So now we're going into week 8. BYU beats Texas Tech. Slowly creeping up there. Kansas State and TCU. Here's one that I think Kansas State could win. I really do. Because, I mean, you look at it like this. TCU, they're returning like maybe 50% of their core players from last season. That's one of the lowest in the country. And it's not the same for Kansas State. So I think Kansas State can do this. They have a great offense, and they can knock off TCU. And it will kind of be the de-escalating factor in TCU's season. And it will probably take out any hope of any of these teams being positioned to be in the playoffs. Maybe not Texas. Maybe not Texas. Or maybe not Cincinnati. Anyway, Oklahoma finally going to shut up UCF. They're going to beat UCF, and that's going to put UCF at 5-2, right there along with them. Cincinnati's going to beat Baylor, solidifying Cincinnati, and shutting up Baylor fans finally. Texas beats Houston, bringing Houston back down to size, I guess. Again, Texas at 6-1 thinks their year is back. Oklahoma State will beat West Virginia. And in week 8, a lot of strong performers. Baylor beats Iowa State. Kansas State probably upsets Houston because Houston is going on the road, and Kansas State is a great home team. Oklahoma goes on the road, loses to Kansas. A real bad upset. Really hurts them. Cincinnati, I think, is going to clutch up on the road, win, and really solidify part of their season structure. UCF can't stand to lose another one back-to-back, and they're not going to. I think they beat West Virginia at home. And that puts them at 6-2. They're coming back strong, trying to anyway. Texas beats BYU. Yeah. Texas still at the top of the division, with Cincinnati right behind them and TCU right there. A lot of these other teams kind of getting pretty far down on the list. It's going to be hard for some of them. Anyway, let's keep it going. TCU goes on the road. Texas Tech. I think they're going to lose that one. Baylor beats Houston. Kansas goes on the road and beats Iowa State. Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma. Yeah, that river rivalry is going to be interesting. As Oklahoma goes fucking probably 5-7 next season. Anyway, Cincinnati smacks around their old AAC buddy. in UCF and really cements themselves highly in this division. Um, Texas is going to drop this game to Kansas State, putting Cincinnati at 8-1 at top of the conference. And West Virginia is going to beat BYU. 11. BYU beats Iowa State. Kansas State at home beats Baylor. Kansas beats Texas Tech. Oklahoma probably beats West Virginia. Not going to lie about that one. I think Texas beats TCU. OSU beats UCF. And Cincinnati goes on the road and puts a nail in what is kind of a sad year for Houston. But is a monumental year of success for Cincinnati thus far. Oklahoma is going to go on the road and get another loss from BYU. Texas beats Iowa State. Kansas State continues on their winning streak, beats Kansas. TCU, realistically at this point, on the losing trail. Baylor, probably going to beat them. Although I could see this game going either way. UCF probably loses to Texas Tech at this point. Again, kind of hemorrhaging their season. Oklahoma State beats Houston, and Cincinnati beats West Virginia. Going into week 13, we have another situation. Cincinnati 10-1, Texas 9-2. And realistically, Texas has to lose this week. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So, Texas, you may actually be back. Anyway, Oklahoma beats TCU, putting TCU at a sad 7-5 finish, along with Oklahoma. Texas beats Texas Tech. I'll say Baylor beats West Virginia. Kansas State beats Iowa State. Oklahoma State beats BYU. Cincinnati beats Kansas. And realistically, UCF puts a pin in Houston's bowl chances. So we're going to go over this a little bit. I'm going to start going over these a lot more at the end because we're getting to the final five. I know I didn't do it for the last one, really, but the last couple of them especially have teams that I really care about. And I'm going to have to start, like, actually putting together bowl predictions and stuff like that. So, Cincinnati, fairly good, right? 11-1 record. Texas at 10-2. Oklahoma State at 10-2. Kansas State at 9-3. With UCF at 7-5. 7-5 Baylor. So a lot of these guys are going to make bowls, right? We have to go down to Houston before we stop making bowls. That means that a lot of these teams were fairly good in division. Obviously not these so much, but anyway, Cincinnati, Texas, and maybe Oklahoma State would be looking at the possibility of playoff berths. Um, with the end of this week, though, it looks like Texas and Cincinnati would be playing in the championship. So Cincinnati could win this and possibly make the fourth seed in the playoffs at 12-1, but I don't think an 11-2 Texas would make the playoffs, to be honest. So Cincinnati's realistically their only shot at the playoffs. Anyway, hopefully you all did enjoy. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.